one thing I noticed when I was starting to write and trying to make a career as a writer-director, that the one like kind of trump card that I had to play that was unique to myself was that I'm from this very specific place with a very specific cadence and a rhythm, and so I wanted to write a story that was set in Arkansas simply because, you know, I came from that place. I knew it in a way that nobody else knew it. Also, to be frank, like most stories that are set in Arkansas when it comes to cinema are pretty cliche. A lot of times we get relegated to country bumpkin. I wanted to make a movie that harkened back to that 1970s gritty kind of cinema, and then gave people in Arkansas a movie that they could go watch and be proud of.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Tell me how this started. When did it start? You wrote it, you directed it. So how long have you been sitting on it? What was the story of it coming to be?
Twisting my bottle cap. I wrote the first draft of this around 2011. So it's been a long time. It took on many forms. As you guys, many of you know, it's very challenging to make an independent film. This film had many lives. It was like a cat. It just wouldn't go away, and it was something I was very passionate about. And it's story as old as time. Like, there was a moment in 2017 where we had been pushing the boulder up the hill, and we were maybe 3 weeks away from production. And we'd done the little dance where you get the actor cast and then put the equity together based on the name, and then it all fell apart 3 weeks before production. And then COVID was another hurdle. We were very close at one point, and then COVID hit.
Because you were one of the few films to have a pass during the strike as well, right?
Yeah, I don't know how many people had a pass. We were certainly, the way the timing worked out was, as with everything, I'm going to use one battle after another. Making movies is one battle after another, and it just felt like hurdle after hurdle. And when we finally got the financing put together, I want to say it was like we made one offer, and then the actor strike happened, and we were like, of course, we get here again, and we've got all our money, and it all falls apart. But we applied for a waiver first day. And you think, oh, well, we're an independent film. We had no ties to a studio. We were private equity from one, source. We were like, we're first ballot, right down the middle, independent movie. Should be easy to get a waiver, right? No. We were literally battling with SAG every day for 3-4 months. Got to the point where, and keep in mind, during this time, we were not allowed to engage actors. So we weren't even allowed to talk to any of these people. We knew who we wanted to make offers to, but we were like, a racing horse sitting in the gate waiting to go. And our casting director, Lindsey Graham, at one point, we were like, it was like a Monday, and she was like, if we don't give the waiver by Wednesday, we have to push the whole shoot. And at the time, we were all terrified that everybody would come back in the spring once the strike was over, and it would be a deluge, and we would not be able to compete. Obviously, we now know that wasn't the case, but at the time, it was terrifying, and we literally got the waiver 11 o'clock that Wednesday night. And we're off to the races, so to speak, but it was, so many hurdles.
And was this your first time writing, directing a feature? Had you had another one before this?
I did, yeah. I had it. Because of all the hurdles, I got sick of waiting around to make a movie. I was going through the normal process of, writing agents saying, hey, I want to make an offer to Nick Stahl or Alexandra Shipp. And what often happens is, you sit around waiting to get a yes or a no. Oftentimes, more than not, it's a no. And it can take years of doing that before you get your cast put together. And I was just so frustrated about the whole process that I had said, I'm going to go make a movie with my friends during COVID, financed it myself, sort of. There's a longer story there, but made it for next to nothing, shot the whole movie at my house.
That was in Arkansas?
No, that was in LA.
But you're from Arkansas?
Yes, I'm from Arkansas.
And this was all shot in Arkansas, right?
This was all shot in Northwest Arkansas, yeah.
So is this based on a true story?
No, it's not based on a true story. I had a very normal upbringing. My mom, who's here, sitting right over there, was was a junior high history teacher, so as normal as it gets. But a lot of the inspiration for this story was built around people I grew up and around, and the voices, the cadence to people's dialect is so much my mother. I mean, Kate Burton's character is my mother. Like, there's so much of the DNA that's right there. In fact, I mean, even they look very similar. When she showed up on set for the first time, I think someone says, "You realize that she looks like your mother?" I said, "Yeah, I guess it's just in there." And all the characters, there's a lot of personal details, like, my father passed away when I was 7, and I have no siblings, so it was just me and my mom growing up, which is, I didn't design it that way, but now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, well, Billy Magnuson is obviously a surrogate for myself. The fact that the father is in prison is some sort of strange metaphor for death in a way, and when I was like 22, my mom's gonna hate that I say this, but when I was 22, I found out I had a half brother that never existed, that my father had been married prior, and somehow this story has a half-brother plot going on, which I don't know where that came from. It must have been in there. And so a lot of the characters, my family was not trading in cocaine and methamphetamines, but there's so much of the DNA in there, and I think psychoanalytically you could probably break down the whole story, and it has something to do with my childhood, for sure.
So are those themes that you were aware of while you were writing, or did they sort of surprise you when you put the film together?
Dude, I mean, I look back after the fact, and I go, oh, wait a minute, there's something that, when I set out to write the story, it really was from a place of, well, two things. It was a love of like 1970s crime movie cinema. I just love that. I was born in the 80s. I was a kid of the 80s. And I just always was drawn to 1970s crime stories. There's just something about those that always resonated with me. Revenge is obviously a very primal thing that we can, it's like a unifying, narrative device that somehow is just in our DNA. So it was that. And then it was also, when I came to LA, I've been in LA 20 years now. So I feel like an Angelino. My wife is from LA. My kids are from LA. But one thing I noticed when I was starting to write and trying to make a career as a writer-director, that the one like kind of trump card that I had to play that was unique to myself was that I'm from this very specific place with a very specific cadence and a rhythm. And so I wanted to write a story that was set in Arkansas simply because, I came from that place. I knew it in a way that nobody else knew it. Also, to be frank, like most stories that are set in Arkansas when it comes to cinema are pretty cliched representations of people from Arkansas. That's not all of them. Like, there are some good Arkansas films, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times we get relegated to country bumpkin, cliche. And so I wanted to make a movie that harkened back to that 1970s gritty kind of cinema, and then, represented Arkansas and gave people in Arkansas a movie that they could go watch and be proud of, that, was nuanced in a way.
So one of the things I love about the revenge aspect of this film is it's like a reluctant revenge.
Yeah.
So what was the thing about this film that you were the most excited? What part of the story really like got you out of bed? Are you really into the violence of it? Are you really into like the emotion of the family drama? Like, what specifically turned you on as a filmmaker in telling this story?
For someone who's not that's a really good question. Nobody's asked me that question. That's a really good question. No, that's great. It's amazing. I think from a very basic standpoint, the family of it all was like the thing that was the core. I mean, the family, and I would say the love. I mean, it's very easy to look at this movie and go, oh, it's called Violent Ends. It's about people being violent, taking, crime into their own hands. And yes, that is true. But to me, the heart of it is the love and the romance between, Billy Magnuson and Alexandra Shipp. And I mean, I think you see that in the coda and the button of the film and what it's all about. It's about, the cyclical nature of violence and the way we pass down traumas and how those things just get relegated to a lineage that never goes away. And obviously this film is about dealing with, you asked the question, you said, was it the violence that got you excited? And I will say, like, when I first set out, it was certainly, an exciting, titillating way to dive into the genre. I think later I realized that I wasn't approaching the violence from a glorification standpoint, if I can say that. Like, don't get me wrong, there are movies like, it's easy to point to like the Tarantinos or what. I love Django Unchained, right? The violence in that movie is hyper real, and it's fun. The violence in this movie was always built and designed to be, sort of shocking. A movie we referenced a lot that I'm sure you guys can feel if you know the film, but is Jeremy Saulnier's Blue Ruin, which handles violence so viscerally. It's a very different film. That movie's very messy. The character is kind of ill-equipped for what he's getting into. That's not the case for Billy's character in this story. But we always wanted this to be a condemnation of violence. Like the whole thing to me was trying to have a conversation. Hopefully people leave the movie and the theater and they think about, the dead-end road of violence. And to me, like, violence at the end is always just destructive. And there's no benefit. And, so I don't think I don't think I got a kick out of the violence. Let's put it that way. I think it's effective, and I love those scenes, don't get me wrong, but it was almost an anti-violent film, if that makes any sense to you. At least in my head it was. I
want to ask y'all some questions down there, but since you brought it up, I want to talk about the last scene where I'm really fascinated by how you said just now it was like about the generational continuation of the violence, because that was such a unique take on like the Mexican standoff. Like, can we call that the Arkansas standoff?
We can't. Yeah, I don't even know. Are we still allowed to say Mexican standoff? I don't know.
I did it.
You just did it, but I mean, for lack of yes. I mean, can I tell you that shooting that was terrifying to me, simply because geographically, when you think about Mexican standoffs and standoffs, are we handing off? We're gonna do a casual handoff. No, come on.
We'll finish that because I'm in it.
We'll finish that comment.
So yeah, I'm in it. Was it a Mexican standoff? Are we allowed to say it?
Yes. The curtain's gonna pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Thank you. We love you.
Yeah,
You're
did great.
amazing.
That's my husband.
It's her husband.
That's her husband, yeah. We were just talking about the dock sequence, the final sequence, and I was saying I was kind of, petrified of that sequence because when we found the location, we loved the location. But the thing about Mexican standoffs in most of cinema is geographically you're either boxed into a triangle or a square or an oval. Geographically, it's kind of a 360-degree thing. Obviously, here we're talking about a straight line. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to photograph that in such a way. And then, obviously, what you see in the end, what came to us was this notion of dominoes falling. And ultimately, I think it's one of the things that seems maybe silly or trite, but it's one of the things I'm most proud of because I feel like it's not easy to take genre tropes and do something original and new. And, that felt like a way to spin it. I was having a conversation with someone today, and by the way, it's lovely to meet you.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello. Lovely to meet you also.
But like, I grew up I was a musician. I was in a bunch of really bad punk bands, and I was a songwriter, and someone pointed out today that, and I think it's true, it's like, he was like, the movie feels like a punk song in as much as, the revenge genre has the constraints, right? You have the built-in formula, and that's true of songwriting too. You've got your bridge, chorus, etc. But really what makes a great punk band or a great band, a pop band, anything, is how they figure out to take the formula and paint outside the lines left or right. And I think that's what we were trying to do here, and I didn't even realize it was just like taking the format of a revenge film and trying to dial it left or right to make it our own. And the Mexican standoff, if you want to call it that, I think is a good example of that kind of like painting outside the genre lines and making it its own thing.
I like what you said about the punk rock of it all, because that's something that very much stood out to me, is that it is a revenge movie, but for it to be a revenge film, it also has to have that hope and that prospect of something different. And Alexandra, I want to talk to you about that, just sort of being this film's hope. Like, it starts off with just this joy, and that all rests on your shoulders.
Yeah. Being the hope. Honestly, it was just really I loved this script the first time I read it. It reads as like a 70s revenge film fully. Like Billy Magnuson is Billy Jack in my mind. Like it's so perfect. It really is. And I loved the idea of that, and I knew coming into it that I had to kind of pull at the heartstrings. So really kind of diving into the love of the beginning of love, like the best part, right, is like, well, it's subjective what the best part of love is, but I think the best part is just at the beginning when your life is just about to start, you know, and it's like there's so many possibilities. There's so much that could happen that is going to be great. And they're talking about having kids, not wanting to take them to a jailhouse. You know, there's just something so sweet and pure about wanting to protect the life that they're building together. And I really wanted to focus on that, and I really wanted to focus on the heart of it, so that when I ultimately die, which in my opinion happens way too fast. Thank you.
I agree.
When I ultimately die, it makes total sense why you would want to burn it all down, essentially.
Can I just say, though, like, what a challenge for an actor to get 3 or 4 scenes to be able to give the audience something to anchor onto that carries the momentum through the whole film. Like I said from the get-go when we were casting this film, I said if that character is not cast properly, the whole movie will not work. And yes, it's Billy's story, and he's taking vengeance into his own hands, but the undercurrent of that and the reason the engine works is because of her performance in the first 20 minutes. And I agree, it's not enough, but...
Gone too soon. So this one is for everybody, despite the fact that it is about a specific character. This poor mother. You guys, why? It's like you've got this whole revenge arc where like everybody's got stuff coming to them, but the only person who pays the price, because everybody else gets to die. This poor mom is the one who has to pay for.
Minus
Tanya doesn't die.
You abscond. You're free.
She was the smart one and got the hell out of
like,
Dodge.
I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the get-go when I was writing the story, like I wanted, obviously this is a story about a bunch of criminals, and we needed the moral compass in the world. And, you know, unfortunately, when you're dealing with a bunch of lowlifes in the story, as there are plenty, unfortunately, if you're going, to me, the movie has to end the way it has to. There was actually another draft where it didn't end that way. At one point, it ended with Billy's character going back to visit his father at the prison, and he had kind of taken up the mantle of the family and become the worst of them, kind of thing. But then it very much at some point became apparent like none of these people should live. And Billy's character, you know, Lucas really closes the chain. Like that's the whole thing. But you know, unfortunately, and maybe I don't know, maybe it was subconscious, but it's like. Maybe just growing up with a single mom, like she was the moral compass in my world, and the women in this story are the logical, you know, characters, and the ones who are level-headed and who are, you know, unfortunately the byproduct of these toxic men, for lack of a better word. And it's unfortunate, but I think Kate Burton is amazing in the movie, and unfortunately she couldn't be here tonight. She's in a play in New York, but she just rendered such a gut-wrenching. You know, especially that last scene on the dock where I love the moment where she's over you, and it's like you finally see that, you know, this tough woman has had to be stern because that's what it means to be a woman in a man's world. Sometimes you have to put on that face, and then you see her finally let that guard down at the end, and you guys, even though you're dead, you have your moment together.
Yeah, she finally comes around, huh? For Tuck.
She finally came around. For Tuck, she finally gave him the tenderness.
Too late, you know.
But don't you think that, like, if Tuck had gotten that tenderness, things would have been different?
I think so. Yeah. I mean...
Did you and Kate talk about that at all?
I don't think we did.
You didn't? No. I mean, it was in the back of my mind, for sure. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I don't really know. I would like to think so, but
I think
Tuck
so.
had some problems as well.
Lot
You
of
know,
daddy issues.
some outside issues too. So...
Yeah, but
maybe
again,
not.
like so much of it is nature versus nurture, right? And
Right.
that is so much at the heart of the story. So I like to think that if Tuck kind of got the gentle hand here or there, he would have been set off in a different course. But
I don't know that we want to put it all on the mom.
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not trying to put it on the mom.
Whose fault is it?
Like it's Tuck's fucking fault. Like
right. She's
she
right.
did the best she could with what she got.
And that's right. She's doing the best she can in a world that's very difficult, in a situation that's very difficult.
Right, and you did give them that scene earlier on when they're in the courthouse, and like he's like, "You've always hated me," and she's like, "No, false. You're being dumb, but I have never hated you." We are getting very close to wrap here, but I want to make sure that we get one final question in. You know, Tuck has a very difficult role that you took on. And we see the final betrayal as it comes around, and like I noticed, you gave a little bit of side eye at the lowlifes mention, and I just want to talk about how you brought the like brotherly balance, but also like the hungry one went for what was needed.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we were kind of joking about the relationship with the mom, but so much of it does kind of hinge on that for him, I think. You know, he kind of feels like the forgotten child. You know, at one point he says, you know, I'm the one you had by mistake. You know, and I think, like I said, I mean, I think he's got this, you know, history of clearly of like addiction and things like that as well. But you know, he doesn't have the moral strength and, you know, that moral compass that his brother does, and his brother was clearly kind of favored, or at least that's the way he sees it. You know, and he just has a much, you know, tougher road. You know, and yeah, I loved the character when I read the script. You know, and that decision between, you know, when he's helping his brother versus staying with, you know, with his wife and kid. I mean, it was just it was such a heartbreaking you know, decision for him, and you know, and he ultimately you know, sacrifices himself for it. So it's, you know, I thought it was a beautiful relationship. So.
And can I point out something too? There's a scene you were just talking about the brother. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about this. It brought me back to set. There's a scene in the movie that I think really boils down the relationship you have with your brother, and it's that scene they've done the Home Alone moment. They've rigged the cabin, and they're sitting there alone. That whole monologue that Nick had, none of that was scripted. We came up with that literally on the fly right before we shot it. It was Nick, Billy, and myself sitting around spitballing the whole swing set story.
Yeah.
And Nick just riffed it in the moment, and it's just...
I credit Billy with that monologue, because he kind of had the broad strokes of it, and I think I changed some details, but Billy just like kind of wrote it on the fly.
It's so good.
It's great.
It loads that finale, that final moment, so the tragedy of it all, in such a way that... Yeah, it just wouldn't be there without it. And yeah, the performance there is amazing. If you guys want to watch this movie again, I really challenge you to watch the movie again and pay attention to his performance now that you know the lie. It's so good. The subtleties and the micro expressions throughout the movie, it's really an amazing performance. Sorry, I'm gloating over the talent, but
You should be. It was, in fact, an amazing performance across the board from everybody here. And guys, our time together was so brief. Thank you so much for standing in for me during LA traffic. Folks, give it up for this team.
thank you so much for coming and supporting the movie. Thank you. It means a ton.